Now, The Hunt Palmer Show.
Yes! I feel like I've been waiting for this my entire life.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Jolly good fun. Jolly good.
Locking down the middle of the day.
America's favorite daytime fun show.
Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio. This is Hunt Palmer.
Welcome in. Hunt Palmer coming to you from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio downtown in the capital city on this Wednesday, about half the work week in the rearview mirror. Appreciate you hanging out with us here on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Jacob Beck and Cassie Spazzali back there on the ones and twos. Plenty to do. JD PicKell, host of the Hard Count on 3 Sports, with us in 15 minutes. College football playoff cranking up this weekend, Friday night in chilly South Bend. Really frigid South Bend, if we're being honest. And then Saturday, just a buffet of important football. We'll talk to JD about all of that coming up. It's a What If Wednesday, taking your submissions via Twitter and, of course, in the Bayou Ford chat. Netflix doing a TV show. Well, not a TV show, I guess. Is that a TV show? It's a series on the LSU, the SEC, and its football programs. We'll talk a little bit about that. Matthew Bruni at 2 o'clock talking hoops. Brandon Drum covers Oklahoma for 24/7, and he's going to jump aboard at 2:15. Of course, LSU pulls in Bauer Sharp last week as a tight end. Nick Anderson pledges to the Tigers, which we talked a little bit about yesterday. Just want Brandon's thoughts on those two guys. He got to watch Nick Anderson's big season 2 years ago in Norman, and then saw Bauer Sharp in his 1 year at Oklahoma as well. So we'll talk to Brandon Drum about that at 2:15. And I think that this has an opportunity to be a more comfortable second act for Spencer Rattler. We'll do a little bit of that in the second hour. But we'll start the show the same way we start it every single day, with our Genesis opening drive.
It's time for Hunt's opening drive, presented by Genesis of Baton Rouge.
Every car on the lot at Genesis Baton Rouge is online at genesisofbatonrouge.com. Last night in the PMAC, I was there. You probably weren't, judging by the size of the crowd, and that's okay. I told you yesterday that Stetson was awful. And as I sit here today, it's been about 23 hours since I previewed this basketball game. Stetson is still awful. Really, really awful. And they showed that in record-setting fashion last night inside the PMAC. Stetson missed their first 16 shots from the floor. They were held scoreless for nearly 10 minutes to start this basketball game. And when I tell you they earned every bit of that, I am 100% sincere. They didn't handle the ball well. They didn't have a lot of quickness. They didn't have much size or strength. They didn't show a lot of skill. They didn't look organized. They didn't look comfortable. It was as awful an offensive effort for the first 10 minutes of that basketball game as I have ever watched in that arena. And I've been going to games in the PMAC now for 18 years. I mean, just awful. And LSU does deserve, and I use my hands here, this much credit, because LSU's a pretty good defensive team. Their first shot defense is some of the best in college basketball. They've got some length and some quickness. They block some shots now. They're veteran. They're a good defensive team. They don't rebound it like they should, but they're a good defensive team. That doesn't even excuse what I watched last night from Stetson. It was some kind of futile. And when the dust settled, they had scored 10 points in the first half, and they needed to make 2 of their last 3 shots in the first half to get that done. Keep in mind, the statistics from this effort were jarring. If I go and pull this up and we look at where Stetson was after 17 and a half minutes of play, Stetson was 2 of 28 from the floor. They made 2 of their last 3 shots in the first period, both of which were by Ellison, the point guard, to go 4 of 31 in the first half. I wrote this for LouisianaSports.net in my post game, but if you look at the first half box, Mekhi Ellison, their point guard, went 3 of 8 from the floor. That means the rest of the team went 1 of 23 from the floor. It was historic stuff. It was the fewest points LSU had held a team in the first half since LSU held, shockingly, Auburn to 6 in 2011, and even more shockingly, since LSU in East Rutherford held North Carolina to 9 first-half points in 1982. if it sounds like a long time ago, it was. Michael Jordan was a young player on the 1982 North Carolina Tar Heels team. I'm stunned that LSU held North Carolina to 9 points at any point in history, but this was 10 for Stetson. It was awful, and that's basically the story of the game, because LSU built such a massive first half lead that there wasn't a lot to draw from the second half. It was 47-10 at halftime. By the way, really nice putback by Derek Fountain at the end of the game there. But it was 47-10 at halftime. So yes, it's less than ideal that Stetson scored 43 points in the second half. But how can you really keep your defensive intensity? And to LSU's credit, as Stetson rolled up 43 points in the second half, LSU scored 52. So Stetson never threatened in any way, shape, or form, like none. It was basically a 35-point game the majority of the second half. It got up to nearly 50 near the end of the game. So I told you yesterday that what I was looking for in this game was LSU to rebound the basketball and to take care of it. That's what I was most concerned with. Now, Stetson stole the show with complete offensive ineptitude, but I do have to talk about what LSU actually did in this game. And I'll tell you, for Stetson to miss 41 shots in this game, that's a lot of missed field goals, and only get 7 offensive rebounds, that's a good job by LSU. Now, Stetson's one of the worst teams in the country, so you don't get like a huge bouquet of flowers, but like here's like a Reese's cup. Like that's a nice effort to hold Stetson to 7 offensive rebounds in the game. And I thought LSU, from a turnover perspective, did a good job in this game. LSU only turned the ball over 11 times. I said I'd really like to keep it around 10. Jai Bailey had 3 of those turnovers. Victorious Miller had 2 turnovers there. I was hoping when I checked the final box score that one of the walk-ons would have tossed a turnover in there that I could kind of scrap from the record and get it to 10 for the guys that are going to play the majority of the minutes, but couldn't. It was all scholarship guys that had turnovers in the game. Maybe you could toss that into Noah Boyd, who had a turnover late for in his 2 minutes of action, but it was a good enough effort for LSU on the glass, and it was a good enough effort for LSU as far as keeping the basketball. You look at the stat sheet for the Tigers and some of the things that jumped out to me. LSU shot the 3 very well in this game. LSU was 14 of 31. That's 45% from 3. And specifically, Victorious Miller was 4 of 6. I believe he was 5 of 20 in the last 4 games. So for him to come out there and knock down 4 of 6 was good. We talked to Victorious after the game. He said, I don't want to call it a slump, but I just was glad to get out there and knock some shots down. That's a good thing for him. Curtis Givens made 3 threes. No, he put 9 of them up, so it wasn't like he lit it up there, but it was good to see Curtis Givens knock down a couple of shots there. Corey Chest, 5th consecutive game for LSU with double-digit rebounds. He had 10 rebounds, and he only played 20 minutes in the game, so that's getting after it on the glass. LSU assisted on 23 of their 35 makes. I thought that was a very good number for LSU, and those assist numbers include 6 from Curtis Givens, who only had 1 turnover. Candidly, I've been a little bit underwhelmed with Curtis Givens. Hold your horses. I'm not going nuts here. I really expected a lot from Curtis Givens and still do. I think his future is bright. I thought he'd have a little bit more impact early. I did not think Victorious Miller would play a lot of minutes early, and he has. So it's kind of been a flip. But Curtis Givens is very much LSU's second point guard. Mike Williams did not play in this game. That to me speaks massively, massively loudly, because you played Adam Benayoun, you played Trace Young, you played Noah Boyd. Like, they cleared the bench out in the last 2 minutes of this game, and Mike Williams never got off the bench.
We talked about that last week too.
Yeah, you were up by 45 points, and he never got off the bench. That, I'm not going to speculate on anything. As far as I know, there are no injuries, but I mean, I don't need to go very much further into that. You've got a guy on scholarship on your team. Everyone else who dressed was on the floor. He didn't play. That speaks pretty loudly. So that tells you that I thought Mike Williams would be the second point guard, because Mike Williams played pretty well last year. He shot it very well. But looks like Curtis Givens is that guy, and he's turned the ball over a little bit. He shot it very poorly before last night, and he just hasn't really been impactful in the minutes that he's been on the floor. But last night, he took a step forward. It's against a bad team with a bad backcourt in a blowout game with no pressure, but you got to start somewhere, and I thought Givens did a pretty good job in that game. The scoring was very balanced. Givens with 12, Miller with 16, Chess with 13, Cam Carter with 16, Jai Bailey with 14. Jordan Sears had kind of a light night. He did dish out 3 assists and grab 5 rebounds, which I do appreciate from the point guard spot. But this was one where you're just going to struggle to dive too deeply into this game and try to pull things out. Stetson is one of the worst teams in the country. We told you last in the show yesterday that their one win of the season was against New College of Florida, and I don't think they're going to get one anytime soon because that is – I'm not 100% confident my intramural team would have scored in the first 10 minutes against LSU, but I'm 75% confident my intramural team of 2008 would have scored a point on LSU in the first 9.5 minutes, and Stetson couldn't quite pull that off. They missed their first 16 shots of the game. So for LSU, it's just one where you wipe that taste of the SMU game away. You try to move forward, but you understand if you're an LSU fan that you're looking at New Orleans coming up on Sunday, then you're looking at another week off, and you're looking at a Mississippi Valley State team coming in on Saturday that is quite literally the bottom-ranked team in the net. They are last, and UNO is in the bottom 30. So your last 3 non-conference games, just the way they shook out, there's just nothing on the bone. So LSU is just going to have to go out there, compete against themselves to an extent, get as comfortable as they can and get ready to go in Southeastern Conference play. Last night's final score, 99-53. LSU wins the game by 46 points over Stetson and holds the Hatters to the fewest number of points in the first half in the history of the Pete Maravich Assembly Center. That is speaking pretty loudly there in terms of what we watched in the Assembly Center last night. Our opening drive brought to you by Genesis of Baton Rouge. I want to remind you, some folks saw this on Twitter and weren't aware of it. I'll try to keep reminding you as we get into conference play and folks really flip from football season to portal season to bowl season to actual basketball season. All of my basketball content is going to be archived at the old Hoops with Hunt podcast feed. Wherever you get your podcast, wherever you get your sound, you can find Hoops with Hunt, which will be repurposed content from this show, all my basketball stuff. So if you don't want to sift through all the other stuff with the Saints and the portal and bowl prep and whatever the case may be that we're talking about, you just want some hoops, you can find it at Hoops with Hunt, wherever you used to find it 3 years ago, or you can just search it wherever you find your podcast. They are always there. It's Hoops with Hunt. We'll step aside for a timeout. When we come back, JD PicKell, host of The Hard Count, talking college football playoff. That's next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Audio Video Security Solutions, AVSSLA.com is that website. Whole home audio, TV installation, video surveillance. If Santa Claus is potentially going to show up with a new television and you're kind of looking at this going, I could try to mount this thing and deal with the surround sound and all that, but I'm not 100% confident. I got some folks for you. Audio Video Security Solutions can handle the mounting and everything that goes with that television. If you're looking to make that smart TV active with the remote and you're trying to figure out how you can get through your apps quickly, you can do that with the folks at Audio Video Security Solutions. They've hooked us up at the Palmer House with the remote that now the kiddo knows how to work. He can skip the ads on the blippy YouTube videos, which is very important to him because he's not a big commercial guy. You can get that in your house with the phones at Audio Video Security Solution. This is Mitchell Fisher's cell phone number, 225-439-7920. It's Audio Video Security Solutions online at avssla.com.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
Every Wednesday, we head out to Jim's Firearms Hotline, chat with our guy JD PicKell, host of The Hard Count on 13's YouTube channel, wherever you find your podcast. If you're looking for your college football fix year-round, you can find our guy JD PicKell, or you can check him out here every single Wednesday. We'll talk some college football playoff with JD. Now, how we doing, sir?
Brother, I'm doing great. It's a little bit weird. It's a little bit weird that we have talked so long about the playoff expanding and about what it would be like, and now we're getting ready to just inhale some first-round college football playoff action, man. So appreciate you having me on again. This is awesome.
I'm looking forward to it as well. I don't have to have like a strong rooting interest in really any of this that's going on right now. Generally speaking, I prefer to see the SEC lose, but I don't have strong feelings towards Tennessee or Texas at the moment. So I'm kind of looking at this going, I'll just enjoy some football at this point. So I think a lot of folks around here probably feel the same way. Let's just kind of start going through it, man. It starts on Friday in what I'm told is going to be a very, very, very freezing cold South Bend, Indiana, in-state matchup between Notre Dame and Indiana, 10-7 matchup. How do you see this one a couple days out?
I have a really difficult time, Hunt, I don't know about you, getting out of my memory bank the Ohio State game when it comes to how I assess Indiana. The great part about that is I think a lot of people feel the way that I feel, and they're not sure if Indiana really deserves to be in the college football playoff based on like the overall roster they have. We get to see against what I would say is a relatively dangerous Notre Dame team based on how they've played since NIU lost. So I'll take Notre Dame there. Again, I think they're the more talented team. I think Marcus Freeman and what he's built there, this is probably their crescendo, if you will, as of right now in the Marcus Freeman era. So I'll take Notre Dame there. The interesting thing about the styles of play there, both want to run the ball, both want to stop the run. I like Jeremiah Love from Notre Dame to kind of be that explosive factor in the game and kind of separate for Notre Dame.
Let's talk about Notre Dame briefly. Basically, my entire life, because I can't go back to Lou Holtz here. Notre Dame got to the biggest stages in Sugar Bowls and Fiesta Bowls and got annihilated, and then got into the BCS championship game and got annihilated, and got into the college football playoff and got annihilated. And it's always just kind of been thought that there's a glass ceiling there. They're just not. They're good. They can beat Army and Navy and Purdue, but when they get in front of the big boys, they don't really show up. Is there any reason to believe that this team is any different this year?
It's a really good question. My answer would be yes. And my answer would be that because of their path and their draw, so to speak. Like Indiana in the first round at home, like if you can't beat a team that won one game in the Big Ten last year that's strung together with transfers and glue. Now, not to disrespect what they've done, it's been awesome, but like you've been building this thing for 3 years. You should be keyword in position to beat Indiana. And then the next round you'll play Georgia. And Georgia now, we don't know what they're going to be in the college football playoff at quarterback, but it's fair to wonder, do they play a guy in Gunnar Stockton who makes his first start on the biggest stage? Like, I saw what Haynes King did to that defense. I think Riley Leonard can do what he did. So I think if you were just to tell me that Notre Dame wins 2 games in the college football playoff, I think that shatters the glass ceiling. Like, I think that tells me, okay, you win a win over Georgia, win over Indiana. Like, this is a new outfit in South Bend. So that I think has some real ammo for Marcus Freeman when it comes to recruiting and building a new Notre Dame, so to speak.
How important is this game for James Franklin against SMU in his home stadium?
Gosh, I mean, how long do you have? Like legitimately, like it's so. In terms of, we were talking about paths and draws a second ago when it comes to what Notre Dame has. If you're Penn State, like you lose that Big Ten title game 11 times out of 10 if you have the option, knowing you get to play SMU and then Boise State for your first 2 games. Like that is like teed up as teed up gets. So, I mean, if they lose this game, I don't know if it's Columbus, Ohio levels of fallout with what would happen with Ryan Day if they lose that game against Tennessee. But, like, there would be a very real feeling of, like, this was supposed to be the year where we built to make the 4-team playoff, let alone they expanded to 12, and we can't win a game against a team that used to be G5. Like, if you can't beat SMU in the first round at home, when is it going to happen, would be my feeling.
What chance do you give SMU to go up there in the cold in front of 105,000 people?
I give them that's probably my sneakiest matchup, I think, of the whole weekend. Like, I have gone on record and said several times, I think this playoff is going to be super chalky. That's the one, though, with what James Franklin and Penn State haven't done in big games. I also wonder if, like, the Penn State offense maybe, like, exerted themselves as much as we're going to see them in the Oregon game. Like, if it's a situation where SMU forces Penn State to score,
sometimes wait as long as I can to see if he comes back, and then it just doesn't happen. So see if you can reconnect with him there back. I am fascinated with SMU Penn State. I don't need SMU in my playoff. if we're really just trying to assess the national champion. But if I'm going to boil this thing down to a vacuum and just talking about a Penn State team that can't get over the hump and an SMU team that I don't really think should be there, I do think there's some intrigue there if it's not exactly what I want to crown my national champion. So, JD, I think we got you back now. You were talking about SMU. No, Beck's waving me off saying we don't have you back. We got to talk about SMU Penn State. We got to talk about Clemson, Texas. And we also have to talk about how many Tennessee fans are going to be in the shoe. I just saw a tweet on my timeline that said that some Tennessee fan had kind of gotten into the back of Google Maps or Apple Maps and had renamed Ohio Stadium Neyland North. So apparently, because of the outrage with Ohio State fans to this point with the loss to Michigan, there's some apathy, if you can call it that, in a playoff situation. And apparently Tennessee fans have feasted on that and gone into the SeatGeek and the third-party secondary market apps, and they have bought a bunch of tickets. So it would not surprise me at all if Tennessee had 15,000 fans in the shoe come this weekend. I think that's a very much a possibility. I don't know who's going to win the game, but that is a playoff game that I do want to watch. I do want to watch Tennessee and Ohio State. I do think that is the type of matchup we should see for the opportunity to go win a national championship. I think the same about Texas and Clemson more often than not. I don't feel that way about Arizona State. I don't feel that way about SMU. I've told you all that time and time again. I don't feel that way about Boise State. But this is the system we've got. So these are the games we're going to look at. And I think that you can find an interesting angle with all of these if it's not that they're the best teams in the country that we're trying to get to play for a national championship. So we're talking about SMU and Penn State. The line on that game, incidentally, is 8.5. The Nittany Lions are favored over Rhett Lashley and SMU. And Rhett Lashley's been really outspoken this week about the transfer portal and all that's gone into the distractions around trying to get ready for a playoff game. And Penn State's dealing with a little bit of that too, because they've got a backup quarterback who's gone to the transfer portal and is a guy that they use a significant amount. So I do think we have JD back. We're talking SMU Penn State. JD kind of putting a bow on things with the fact that you thought this might be a sneaky spot for SMU to actually win this game.
I don't know who's under more pressure, if it's me or James Franklin, when it comes to playoff performances here. Because, we're stringing together some clunkers on my end, brother. So, James Franklin got to win, and, we'll see what happens. But it'll be sneaky. I'm excited to watch it.
Clemson, Texas, in Austin. 12 is the number on this one. Clemson's got 3 losses, but they, generally speaking, have some 4- and 5-star guys running around out there. Do they have a chance to go to Austin and keep it close?
Yeah, I think they do. Hunt, I was surprised this was 11.5. I would have thought you would have put this spread on the SMU Penn State game, just full transparency. Yeah. But, I think for me, the storyline here is hey, Quinn Ewers, this is the spot, man. It's been a couple of underwhelming performances. It went over 300 against Georgia. That's nice. But, I'm still waiting to see Michigan Quinn Ewers. I'm waiting to see Bama from last year Quinn Ewers. It's been what feels like very up and down. And so if there's ever a spot to put it all together, it's with the 12 seed coming to your place against the quarterback who beat you for the state championship when y'all were in high school and Cade Klubnik. Let's circle the wagons here. I don't think this is the Arch Manning game, full transparency. I think it's the Quinn Ewers game. But the weird hypothetical we could live in here is if Quinn Ewers plays poorly, Texas still wins. Do you say, hey, Arch, we think you give us a better chance against Arizona State? We're going to kind of make a pivot here. We've seen enough. We got to get better right now. So I think Quinn Ewers gets it right, but I do think that's kind of the thing to watch. But I'll take Texas overall to win the football game. Let's
go to Columbus, Ohio. Interesting stuff here. Both Knoxville and Nashville are sub 6 hours from Columbus, Ohio. And word is that the tickets are being gobbled up on the secondary market here by folks in Orange. It's a 102,000-seat stadium. Can Tennessee get 15,000 in there?
I think so. I have a buddy who's a Tennessee fan, and he said he bought tickets to row 12, 4 together, all for less than $200. For a college football playoff game in Columbus, Ohio, and Ohio State, the fan base and how they should probably care about their football team, that to me is unfortunate if I'm an Ohio State player or an Ohio State fan that is dialed in. But yeah, I think it'll still be an advantage for Ohio State overall, when it comes to the divide. But I would not be surprised at all, like you just mentioned, if we saw a pretty healthy dose of the folks in Tennessee Orange out there. This one is going to be real, especially if Hunt, it sounds like some of the Ohio State folks are trying to get rid of their tickets based on what happened against Michigan and their feelings of Ryan Day. Like, the vibes in this one from the fan base, from the team, like, this is very, very treacherous territory from the Buckeyes.
I realize that, emotion is a powerful thing in college athletics. It's a powerful thing in professional sports as well. But Ohio State fans, they have to get over this Michigan thing. I guess they can't. It's just in the DNA and they can't. But that game is not the only game on the schedule. The other 11 did count, and you now have a chance to go play for a national championship, which also still counts if you lose to Michigan. I don't understand I get it, but I don't truly understand their obsession with 4 hours of a 4-month season. That just isn't, it's just wrong.
I had a conversation today with some of the guys in our office. If you went up to an Ohio State fan and told them, hey, you're not going to win the Big Ten, you're not going to beat Michigan, but you're going to win the national championship, would you take it? I think it's 65 yes, 35 no. Like, I genuinely think, like, that Michigan game means so much to that fan base. Losing it 4 times in a row, especially when Michigan was so down, like, that is an ultimate gut punch. And I'll say this, too. I know there's the vote of confidence from the Ohio State folks about Ryan Day. If Ohio State loses this football game, there will be a new coach in Columbus, Ohio next year, whether it's them parting ways or whether it's Ryan Day saying, dude, screw this. Like, I win 10, 11 games a year. I'm going to go be a coordinator somewhere. I'm going to go be a coach somewhere else that I can, be appreciated. Like, I get it. It's the job. But, like, I think if it goes south, I do think that one way or another, there's someone else calling the shots in Columbus next year.
And I don't disagree with that. You lose at home to Michigan and to Ohio State. I don't disagree with to Tennessee. I don't disagree with your sentiment that they could move on. I think it would be absurd. What is your view on that?
Be nuts. Oh, I mean, if it's me, I'm like, and it's hard because I don't have the Ohio State colored glasses, and so it is a thing where it's like I couldn't articulate the way an Ohio State grad could how much the Michigan game means to me. But, like, I mean, I was in Columbus, Ohio 2 years ago when J.J. McCarthy and company rolled in there and took over that place, and it was like a funeral. So to answer your question, I think it'd be lunacy. Like, I think Ryan Day. I mean, the other question is, like, who are you going to go get? Which everyone likes to ask in this hypothetical. Like, Marcus Freeman just got extended. I mean, he's a Buckeye, so I guess that's one guy you call and see if you can maybe figure out that buyout. Like, Urban Meyer's not coming back. He's already said that. Like, Brian Hartline's going to be a head coach, but I don't think he's the guy right now. Like, who is genuinely changing the way that game unfolds the last 4 years as a head coach if it's not Ryan Day? And my answer is I don't know if there is anybody. So, I think it's nuts, but I guess that's what college football is.
It is sometimes. 2 more questions. One, who you got for your national champion before we start this thing?
I got Oregon, and it's super chalky, super square, a super boring pick, but, like, just the most complete team. I'm not sure that I trust Ohio State or Tennessee if they get, if they end up playing them in the next round. Like, there's so many holes to where it would take one of those teams from Oregon's side of the bracket being consistent. And then the other side of the bracket with Georgia and Notre Dame being the two that you probably look at most closely if you're taking, the higher seeds outside of Penn State, not, doing something Penn State-ish. I just think Oregon just has me with the least amount of questions, so I'll take Oregon to win the whole thing. I have beating Georgia, if it's any consolation. Had Georgia-Oregon preseason, Georgia winning. I'll take Oregon-Georgia postseason, Oregon winning.
Let me ask it a different way. If I gave you Oregon or the field, what would you take?
Oh, gosh. I would take the field just because that feels like, a smart mathematical approach, which makes me seem so wishy-washy and speaking out of both sides of my mouth here.
No, it's a different question.
I'm not 100%. I mean, I'm not 100% sure that, like, Georgia isn't going to be a better version of themselves offensively with Gunnar Stockton. And, like, that's not less of, we talked about it last week. That's not saying anything of Carson Beck. It's just like, do you not get back to who you want to be if you're Georgia by committing to running the football, whether at quarterback, whether it's, doubling down, just saying we're going to protect this guy by not throwing it as much. Like, I think that allows the defense and the Kirby pedigree to play into account a little bit more. And I'm also not 100% sure that Texas won't put it together and look like a freaking, Monstars squad here once we hit playoff time. So we're going to learn a lot about this playoff format, if you will, with what the rest means for these teams and these good coaches. But I will still pick Oregon. But if you gave me Oregon versus the other 11, I would have to go with the field. Feels like just a smart move to go with.
We got Christmas week from today, so no show on Wednesday. I may run you down some other day next week and see if we can talk some more football.
Please do.
Right? Yeah,
Please do, man. Well, I owe you, so I appreciate you.
Y'all have a great Christmas with the new one up there, and we'll talk soon.
Thanks, Hunt. Go Tigers.
JD PicKell, host of the Hard Count on 3 Sports, with us next week at some point, but always with us on Wednesdays getting ready. Beck, I cannot get over this Ohio State thing. It's really, we've talked about it twice, so I'm not going to belabor it, but I can't get over it.
It's pretty shocking. It kind of reminds me of the rivalries in international soccer at times, where there are these clubs that, like, if you don't beat your main rival, even if you win all the other games, they don't care. But you don't really see that in American sports that much. I mean, there are rivalries and people care, but to this extent is kind of incredible.
There was a point in the BCS where if you couldn't win that game, you couldn't get in.
Yeah.
So I gotcha. If that's the case, we're not in that. That'd be like Duke firing Krzyzewski because he lost 3 in a row to North Carolina. Well, really, that doesn't matter that much as long as you get in the tournament and go win some games.
Yeah.
It's just blows my brain. I understand that they're doing it, but it's like you don't play the game to beat Michigan. You play the game to win the national championship. It's nuts. All right. So what if Wednesday next?
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Genesis of Baton Rouge, genesisofbatonrouge.com. When you think luxury, think Genesis of Baton Rouge. When you think luxury, though, don't think, well, I can't afford that. No, there are probably some luxury car brands that pop up in your brain when you think about that type of vehicle. Genesis should be right there. Go check it out. Airline at PQ. Go check out the dealership one time. Walk through. The vibes, the energy, the design, it's all fantastic. The people you will work with are first class. And then you'll get behind the wheel of that one of those vehicles, and you'll understand why. It's one of the top lines of vehicles in the auto industry. It's a luxury experience from start to finish, and it's at a reasonable price. We're talking about a 10-year, 100,000-mile warranty. We're talking about valet maintenance, talking about complimentary maintenance for 3 years. It's all right there at Genesis of Baton Rouge. They're fairly new to the game here, especially at that location, Airline and PQ. If you're looking for a new car, you're on Airline Highway, just swing by Genesis of Baton Rouge, right across from Women's Hospital, and check in. Tell them the Hunt Palmer Show sent you, and get behind the wheel of one of those Genesis vehicles. Every car on the lot is online at genesisofbatonrouge.com, genesisofbatonrouge.com.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
So we got a lot to chat about today. Sharif yesterday. We were talking about Spencer Rattler today in the second hour. We're also going to talk about LSU's additions from Oklahoma. Some more hoops talk at 2 o'clock with Matthew Bruni. But for right now, it's time for a little What If Wednesday.
Time, space, reality. It's more than a linear path. Where a single choice can branch out into infinite realities. Follow me and ponder the question, what if?
All right.
What are you laughing at over there? That's a bad start.
I texted my wife and my brother and one of my other friends to send me some what ifs.
Oh, God.
And I got some good ones here.
Okay.
The first one, this one's for my brother, Justin. What if the Goo Goo Dolls and Matchbox 20 formed a super group? Would they be Matchbox Dolls or Goo Goo 20?
I think you got to go the Matchbox Dolls. Goo Goo 20
that's
feels
not good.
Feels like it could be something.
That sounds like a Korean K-pop group or like a group or something.
Dolls. Matchbox Dolls feels like an actual thing that may have happened once upon a time.
Yeah. They probably toured at some point. I would have to guess.
Matchstick Dolls, I think, is more of a potential. But yeah, that'd be a super group. Taylor Swift's records would fall pretty quickly
immediately
if they got together.
In the Taylor Swift vein, my wife said, "What if all white girls banded together and created a Taylor Swift city?"
I'd probably be looking for a third wife. Mine would probably be out the door. We'd probably
lose a producer as well. We'd be looking for a video producer
and a wife. I'd really be shorthanded with help around here.
Yeah.
I mean, I think she could make it. I think at this point she's got enough followers that she could basically do whatever she wants.
Pretty much.
I think that's reasonable.
What would they call the city, though? I wonder.
I don't know enough Taylor Swift songs to figure it out.
Cassie?
I mean, like the Taylor Swift fans are called Swifties, so I feel like it'd have to be something with
Swiftie
that.
City?
Swiftville.
New York
Swiftville.
Swiftie.
Swiftville. That sounds like a Dr. Seuss book or something. But
Mean. That's what they should call the city.
Oh, wow. Okay. All right. Next
Taylor
one.
Swift.
What if Santa was really real?
It's 140. Santa is real. Absolutely.
Okay. I get what I see what your point is there. All right, next we got some here as well, and I don't know if did you get these from the chat? You got in the
some.
Okay. All right, first one. What if you order a Christmas present for a significant other and it arrives late?
I think that probably depends.
Well, you're kind of in a situation right now.
So we got a notification. Got it shipped this morning.
Okay.
I sent a chat text. I tried to call, and they said our office is closed. I was like, this sounds like a scam to me.
Yep.
And then I went to the website, and it said you can chat with us. And I sent a chat, and it looked like a person that responded. And I got a notification that it was shipped today. So I think it's going to arrive on time. I have a buffer zone, as I was telling y'all. The wife's birthday is the 30th
as well.
So if we miss by 4 days, we're still okay on the birthday side.
That's really good for you.
It is, but I feel like there are some that would be offended. You didn't think of things early enough.
Yeah.
But at this day and age,
you ordered it
the
like,
first.
The 1st.
The 1st of December. That's the deal. Like, you now have like proof of when you ordered things.
Yeah.
And I think if you've given yourself a reasonable time,
you got receipts.
So it didn't show up, and you're like, well, you ordered on the 21st.
Yeah.
Thanks. Like that may be an issue, but yeah, you gotta get that taken care of. I actually my clock starts starts ticking about Halloween. I'm going, okay, I've got her birthday and his birthday and Christmas coming. Like, we got to get into gear.
That's impressive, Hunt.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have a choice. Like, you can't botch that 5 days. It'd be a bad deal.
All right, next one. What if Cody Bellinger wins the Triple Crown next year?
What are you
gonna do? What can you do?
They didn't really get anything for him. They dumped salary. It depends on what they do with the rest.
$5 million. That's tough.
If he wins the Triple Crown, that'll be a miss by the Cubs. There's no evidence to suggest he's going to win the Triple Crown.
Yeah,
he's a declining player.
Okay, I don't know if we should put it that way. I mean, maybe since he left the Cubs.
He won the MVP 5 years ago, 4 years ago.
Yeah. All right, next one. What if the Myers band follows Ethan Ott to Alabama?
Break my heart. I mean, just.
What would you do? What would you really like? How would you feel, Hunt?
I mean, hopefully, he's brainwashed over the next 15 years where that's an impossibility.
You would hope.
I mean, I'll tell you, there are a lot of people I know in my social circle who have adopted the school that their kids go to for football. I will never pull for that school to win in football, no matter if he plays for him. I'll have to reconsider. But if he just goes there and he takes Psych 1001, no, that ain't happening.
Well, one thing I'll say though is that Alabama does recruit out of state very heavily. My wife got a full ride to Alabama. She went there for a year.
I don't care.
So
I'll cut the check to Baton Rouge.
You'd rather pay like $10,000 a year instead of free college.
Yes, no question.
That is impressive.
He's not going to Tuscaloosa to go to school. That's a lifetime that he's going to be pulling for that football team. I can't take it.
All right, next one. What if you were asked to count as high as you could and you got $1 for every number? I mean,
so I have to sit on the couch and count, and as high as I get $1 for that. Man, that's just a discipline thing. Like, how long are you willing to sit there?
And let's put a caveat in that if you try to go super fast and you mess up, then you lose.
I mean, I'd probably screw up. I'm going to stutter at some point.
Unless you go slowly.
I don't know how quickly you get through it, but I got to think I could get to 50,000. Like, I'm not going to sit there and get to 2.2 million. I don't think I have
going to take you like hours.
Yeah, and I think I could get there, and I think I'd be willing to do that. I think there are some that are saying, well, why don't you sit there and count to 1 million? You can do it. Man, I don't know if I have the discipline to get it done. I'd like to think I do, but that's going to take like days. I can't. I don't know if I can do that, but I think I could sit there on the couch and get to 50,000, and I'd take the check tax-free, and I'd feel okay about it.
Yeah, all right. We got one in the chat, but unfortunately, the answer to that question is already, there's already an answer for it. What if LSU wears alternate uniforms for the bowl? They're going to be wearing alternate uniforms for the bowl.
I've given up. I've lost.
Look, I don't.
It's over.
What do you think though? They literally like.
I think they're going to do this until Brian Kelly leaves.
No. What I'm saying is they commented on their post about the uniform and said the bowl game like dictates like who wears like if you have to wear a darker color or something.
Maybe, but we've worn. LSU's worn dark uniforms very few times in bowl games. They wore them in the game last year against Wisconsin. They wore them, I think, against Virginia Tech in the Chick-fil-A Bowl. They wore dark, but they don't. That never really happens. So I think Brian Kelly's going to let the players do it, and the players will want to wear the other stuff that looks stupid. So that's what they're going to do. Yeah. And I think until he's not the coach anymore, they're just going to look. They're going to look stupid, in my opinion, for half the season.
All right, next one. What if LSU stopped right now with portal additions?
They'd be light at the offensive line and unproven there, and I would be uncomfortable with that, and I'd be uncomfortable at safety. And so I think that I would not feel awesome about the team next year because of safety and offensive line. If they can pull in a center and a tackle, and then they can go get a safety that's started, I feel like this is a team that on paper looks pretty good. Yep. But they've got to go get 2 offensive linemen and a safety. And I'll take whatever else they can find, but they've got to go get that done. So,
all right, last one here. This one's for my buddy Peyton. He says, "What if New Orleans hosted the Olympics? Could the city handle it, and would they try to sanitize the image?"
Good gracious, no.
There's no way they could sanitize the image anyways.
Now, I'll say the Final Four and the Super Bowl are phenomenal, but I feel like the Olympics is a completely different animal.
That's so much. That's a lot.
And so
Atlanta can do it.
This is a Colin Cowherd take that I completely agree with. There are like 6 cities that can host the Olympics. Let's just leave it in those 6 cities. We don't need to give everybody a bone and let them try to do this stuff. Like the World Cup went to wherever, Qatar, and just everyone died and it was 1,000,000 degrees. Like, we're not doing that. There's like 10 places, and that's what we're going to do. And sorry to everyone else who doesn't get their chance, but that's just the way it goes. So that's a take I would agree with. All right, let's step aside and close out hour number 1. Netflix, big announcement for SEC football. We're talking about it next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
One Bath and Closets. OneBathAndClosets.com is the website. David Duvall and his team, 30 years redesigning and remodeling bathrooms and closets. Love our conversations with David Duvall. He always talks about how they're going to do it right the first time and leave the competition behind. I tell you about their capabilities every day. You know that by now. You know that they do tub-to-shower conversions. You know that they do custom closets. You know they can do full-scale bathroom renovations. But one of the great things about David and his company are that you can trust that they're going to give you a timeline. They're going to operate during that timeline. And they're not going to come back like 3 weeks later because 3 things have malfunctioned, but they got to the next job and took your check. No, they're going to do it right the first time and leave the competition behind. Start that process today with a free consultation. Go to OneBathAndClosets.com. Get David on the horn. Tell him the Hunt Palmer Show sent you, and start that process of a new bathroom and a new closet today. It's David Duvall and One Bath and Closets. OneBathAndClosets.com.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show. Hopefully Hunt remembered to bring his laptop charger. Nah, there's no chance.
Closing up hour number 1 here on this Wednesday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show. Netflix announced today that they will have a new series coming up in the summer of 2025 documenting the 2024 college football season in the Southeastern Conference from the same folks that did Drive to Survive with Formula One, that did the golf series that followed the PGA Tour, Full Swing. They'll do SEC football, and it'll be released in the summer of 2025. The caveat here is that there are some teams in the SEC that passed on the opportunity to be in the documentary. Alabama is out, Georgia is out, Oklahoma is out, Ole Miss is out, and Texas is out. But everybody else opted in to this documentary. I will watch it. My first thought, unfortunately, when I thought about this like unfettered access and all this stuff behind the scenes, is that I just feel like there's a lot of like questionable things that go on in college football, from like grades and recruiting and NIL stuff and like stuff that has gone on from behind closed doors for years and years and years. I'm assuming that's not going to be in it. And then I also just question how much coaches are going to willing to like divulge game plans and stuff that is on Netflix. So like, is it a bunch of like this guy and his girlfriend went to McDonald's to eat and like stuff that I just don't really care that much about? Is it like Justin Thomas and Jordan Spieth are good friends? Well, I already knew that. If there's new information, like I'm in on it, and I think that it's a good concept, I just question how much access they're going to be granted and how much they're going to be able to get to the airwaves. If you're a Vanderbilt fan and this is coming out, I'm sure you're thrilled. You're detailing in one of the best seasons in the last 20 years, and you've probably got incredible access to the game against Alabama. If you're an LSU fan, which is most of you listening to me, you got the Ole Miss game, you got the South Carolina game that should be good. You got maybe and obviously Ole Miss goes into 100 years in Tiger Stadium, and you had College Game Day here from Alabama, I guess, which is kind of cool. I don't know what exactly is going to be involved in all this, but I'm sure I'll dip my toe into it and try to watch it. I did not watch the Formula One one. I did watch the first season of Full Swing. I didn't love it. I didn't go back to the second season of Full Swing. I probably should go back and do that. But I'll probably watch this. I'm curious what kind of access they get. Beck, are you intrigued by an SEC Full Swing style documentary?
I guess so, but again, like I'm with you too. If this is kind of just like he goes to school and they go and this is how they travel on road trips and this is they go eat lunch in the ballroom at the hotel and they do their walkthroughs. Right.
And
I'm not interested in that. Like if we can get something closer to like Hard Knocks, that would be pretty cool. But
and again, you saw the Giants look like clowns.
Yes.
For that offseason Hard Knocks with the Saquon Barkley stuff, and like you're gonna do that with some SEC team. Like I think. Look, in this day and age, I think branding is important. I think that LSU's built a really, really solid brand, and I think that them having the money game is a big deal. I don't know about this. I just don't have any hot takes on something that I have so little information about, other than like, hey, check it out. And so I'll check it out, and then I'll come up with whether or not I'm into it. Y'all know, as I've just said, like I was really gung ho on watching Full Swing. I was excited about it, and I was like, kind of already knew all this. And so, like, I know more than a lot of you about the inner workings of the football program because I go to practice and I go to, the coaches' offices, and I go in the football facility, and so I've seen all that kind of stuff. So that won't be new to me either. We'll see. I'm certainly not shutting the door on it, but I'm not, just over the moon and can't wait to watch it. I guess I'll just have to reserve judgment. We come back, we'll talk some hoops with Matthew Verney and then some Oklahoma with Brandon Drum. Come back after Sports Center, Hour 2 of the Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.